Good morning. Today is Monday, April 7th, 2025. This weekend, I think, can best be described as Beauty and the Beast. Tomorrow, I hope to discuss with you the beauty, the tremendous opportunity and deep meaning that the arrangement of this weekend has with our entry into Pesach, which starts on Saturday night, to be through Shabbat, through the process and experience of Shabbat. And I hope to share some ideas about that with you. Today, I want to try to address the beast. I don't mean that I mean that only in the fact that it's complicated. Not, God forbid, that there's anything wrong or ugly. God forbid, I don't mean that. But just in the sense that there are a lot of details. There are a lot of details due to the fact that Erev Pesach, the eve of Pesach, is Shabbos. And what leads to the complication for this weekend is that the sale of our chametz to the non-Jew, which normally occurs on Erev Pesach, the eve of Pesach, the day on which that night we have the Seder, we can't do that this year because that's Shabbos, and we can't do a sale on Shabbos. So we have to do it a day earlier. But even after we have sold all of our chametz, this year, this Friday morning is when the sale takes place, we still have to eat meals. So what should be the status and the content of these meals? Next, on Friday morning, we will burn whatever chametz we found in our search the night before. And when we burn the chametz, that is supposed to be the last bit of chametz that we own. Whatever we sold is already sold. And whatever we own is only the little pieces that we're going to burn. We're not supposed to own any chametz after that time. So it is a problem to own chametz Friday afternoon and Friday night and Shabbos morning. So what do we do about that? And then the next logistical detail is on Shabbos, every Shabbos, we're supposed to have 3 Shabbos meals. And ideally, at each of the 3 Shabbos meals, we should be able to wash and make hamotzi over bread or something like bread. So what do we use for bread for these 3 meals on Shabbos? Now, I discussed this at length this past Shabbos at ADATH, and today I just want to provide a very brief set of guidelines, and I want to make it clear that what I'm going to suggest in some aspects is not the only opinion about this, but I'm going to suggest what I think is the correct thing and what I think is the best way to practice this, and of course what I plan to do myself and for ADATH. The fast for the firstborn, which normally occurs on Erev Pesach, so this year will be Shabbos, but we don't have fast days on Shabbos except for Yom Kippur, which is a separate reason. And therefore the fast is moved to Thursday. Many people who are firstborn attend a siyum, the completion of the study of a volume of Talmud, and that will take place in synagogues this Thursday morning at the end of the morning service. Here at ADATH, we have morning service at 6:45. We will have a siyum, and we will have a very nice breakfast to which you are all invited. By Thursday night, this Thursday night, at 7:20 p.m., by that time, it is necessary to arrange for the sale of your chametz. Remember, when you go to a rabbi to arrange the sale of your chametz, you are not selling your chametz to that rabbi. The rabbi does not want your chametz. You are appointing that rabbi as your agent to take care of the sale for you, and the actual sale to the non-Jewish person takes place this year on Friday morning. It is my strong suggestion that by this Thursday night, 8 p.m., which is the time that we are to search for chametz, so everything should be put away except for the little pieces we put out to find when we search for chametz. By that time, we should be ready for Pesach. And what I mean by that is all cleaning should be finished, all chametz and chametz dishes should be put away, all food that is chametz should be put away, except for the little pieces we're going to leave out to search for and to find in the search for chametz. All of our appliances or dishes that we're going to kosher for Pesach should already be koshered. We should be kosher for Pesach 100%. As if it's the middle of Pesach, we should be kosher for Pesach Thursday night by 8 p.m. And from that time, Thursday night at 8 p.m., we are eating only kosher for Pesach food, only kosher for Pesach dishes, utensils, appliances, all kosher for Pesach from Thursday night at 8 p.m. And that means things like cleaning our car, our office, our home, should all be finished and all chametz put away by Thursday night, 8 p.m. It would be a problem to own chametz after that, because if on Shabbos you own any chametz, you have to destroy it. It will not have been included in the sale of chametz because the sale took place on Friday. So whatever remains, obviously you didn't sell it. And how are you going to get rid of it on Shabbos? On Friday we burn chametz, but you can't burn chametz on Shabbos. And so it is very, very preferable that we do not own any chametz on Shabbos, and everything that we have, the last pieces that we find at the search, are burned on Friday morning as we normally would if it was Erev Pesach. This Friday, it is very important that all preparations for Shabbos be finished before Shabbos starts. That's obvious like every week. Any cooking, any cleaning, any preparations should be done before Shabbos starts, like every week. But it is also necessary that as much preparation for the Seder be done on Friday before Shabbos starts. And that's for a couple of different reasons. Number one, Saturday night the Seder starts quite late, when Shabbos is over. On Shabbos, we're not allowed to do any preparations for the Seder because it's after Shabbos. On Shabbos, we're not allowed to prepare for after Shabbos. So that means on Shabbos afternoon, we're not allowed to set the table for the Seder. We're not allowed to put out the dishes for the Seder. We're certainly not allowed to heat up the food because it's Shabbos and because it's preparing for after Shabbos. And so, as much preparation for the Seder as can be done on Friday should be done. And that includes setting the table for the Seder, should be done on Friday. Washing the lettuce, grating the horseradish, having the food prepared and defrosted. All of those things should be done before Shabbos starts, so that we can begin the Seder as quickly as possible after Shabbos ends on Saturday night. We want to start as quickly as we can because we don't want people to fall asleep. So we try to start as quickly as possible. But there's an additional reason to make sure that all preparations are done before Shabbos starts. Because even though on Yom Tov it's permitted to cook from an existing flame, however, there are certain actions done in the kitchen that are still prohibited on Yom Tov. For example, using a grater let's say to grate the horseradish, is prohibited on Yom Tov. Any Yom Tov. Using a grater ever on Yom Tov is prohibited. It is not within the permissible activity of cooking for Shabbos. If you wanted to take horseradish Saturday night and to chop it up with a knife, that's okay. But if you want to use a grater, it has to be done Friday before Shabbos starts. So again, as much preparation for Saturday night Seder as you can do before Shabbos starts, the better you be. For Friday night, the Shabbos meal, it should be on all kosher for Pesach food, on all kosher for Pesach utensils. Could be disposable utensils. What do you use for hamotzi? Well, we don't use matzah because we do not eat matzah on Erev Pesach. I'm going to come back to this later. You could technically have a challah roll, but you would have all the problems that I mentioned before. It would mean you're still owning chametz after you burned it on Friday, which is a problem. It would mean that you may have crumbs or leftover bread on Shabbos, and how are you going to get rid of that on Shabbos so that you don't have any chametz in your possession on when Pesach starts? So using challah rolls, in my opinion, is very much not a good idea. And my strong suggestion is to use egg matzah. Egg matzah is a very interesting food. Number one, we are not permitted to eat egg matzah on Pesach. I'm talking about Passover egg matzah, of course. We're not allowed to eat it because since it has ingredients other than flour and water, it is possible that it may be considered chametz, and it is certainly not valid to eat at the Seder. So we're not allowed to eat egg matzah on Pesach. However, we are allowed to own it. It's okay if it is in our possession as long as we do not eat it. And third, if we eat it as part of a meal, we make the bracha hamotzi. So this is the best idea for Friday night, to have the Shabbos dinner, all kosher for Pesach, and for hamotzi to use egg matzah. And you make hamotzi, use egg matzah, you'll say the benching afterwards. That's Friday night. Shabbos morning. So remember, there's a requirement to have 3 Shabbos meals. 1 Friday night, 1 Shabbos morning, and 1 Shabbos afternoon. And ideally, there should be hamotzi for all 3 of them. Well, now we come to a real problem, because we cannot eat chametz after 10:12 a.m. on Saturday. We cannot eat matzah all day on Saturday Shabbos. So you only have 2 options. One option is to have your second Shabbos meal early in the day, let's say 9:30 a.m., and to have preferably egg matzah, or you have a challah roll, but that has all the problems that I mentioned before, so I urge you to have egg matzah, but you have to finish eating egg matzah by 10:12 a.m. So to finish eating matzah by that time, the synagogues will have services starting very early. At ADATH, this Shabbos morning, we will start at 7:15 a.m. and we'll finish by 9:30 a.m. We'll have Kiddush, and then by 10:12 a.m., we will put away all egg matzah, all chametz is gone, and we're ready for Pesach, and we will say the bitul, which is where we say that any chametz that is somehow still in our possession, if we know about it or we don't know about it, we remove our ownership. We consider it as if it is meaningless and has no value or meaning to us, and we consider it ownerless. We relinquish our ownership. So we will say that together on Shabbos morning before 11:33 a.m. Okay, so for that second meal, we can make hamotzi, preferably with egg matzah. What about the third meal? The third meal is in the afternoon. It should be early in the afternoon because we don't want to enter Pesach on a full stomach. What are we going to eat? You can't use matzah because we're not allowed to eat matzah on Erev Pesach. You can't use challah rolls because in the afternoon there's already the prohibition of eating chametz. And you can't eat egg matzah because since it is like chametz, we don't eat it from the time of 10, 12 a.m. Montreal time on Shabbos morning. And so therefore, this week, the only option for the third Shabbos meal on Shabbos afternoon is to eat foods that have the bracha of shehakol. A piece of meat, it could be fish, it could be eggs, hadama, ha'etz, fruits, vegetables. All those things are fine. But no hamotzi. Even though ideally we should make hamotzi and have bread or something like it for the third Shabbos meal, this year it's impossible. And therefore we rely on eating the other foods. One food that I can suggest to you that is appropriate to eat at this meal is gefilte fish. Even if you make gefilte fish with matzah meal, so therefore you might say, well, if it has matzah meal, it's like matzah, and therefore we should not be able to eat it on Erev Pesach. But the rule is that if a food contains matzah meal and it is cooked in liquid, or it is fried in oil, let's say schnitzel, that is fine to eat on Erev Pesach. Only if it is baked in the oven, like matzah, or like a matzah meal cake, for example. That should not be eaten on Erev Pesach. But again, gefilte fish, schnitzel that you made on Shabbos, that you made before Shabbos, or meat, or fish, or eggs, or vegetables, or cheese, not in the same meal, of course, that will be fine. As I mentioned, concerning many of these issues, there is more than one opinion, and you will hear different people doing different things. But this is my suggestion of what is the easiest, most convenient, most clear-cut, and most kosher way to prepare for Pesach this year. Tomorrow, I hope to share with you the beauty and the significance of this year's Erev Pesach leading into the first Seder. My friends, I wish you all a great day, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.